Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a hot topic that's been making waves in the tech world, the Department of Justice's antitrust lawsuit against Apple. Yep, you heard it right. The Department of Justice is accusing Apple of operating an illegal monopoly in the smartphone market. Think about it, we all love our iPhones, right? But what if I told you that behind those sleek designs and cool features lies a web of unfair practices that are driving up prices for us consumers and stomping out competition? That's what this lawsuit is all about. The government isn't pulling any punches, alleging that Apple is playing dirty by blocking competition from other apps and services, squeezing developers for higher fees, and basically making it harder for anyone else to get a foot in the door. And it's not just about the money, it's about innovation too. By stifling competition, Apple is stifling innovation. Imagine if we had more choices, more affordable options, and more freedom to customize our devices the way we want. But hey, Apple's not taking this lying down. They're firing back, saying this lawsuit threatens their very identity and the principles that make Apple products stand out. They're painting themselves as the underdog, fighting against government overreach and defending our right to top-notch technology. So, who's right? Is Apple the tech hero they claim to be? Or are they really just another big fish swimming in a sea of monopoly power? Stick around as we break it all down and dive deep into the drama unfolding in the smartphone world. The U.S. Department of Justice accused Apple of operating an illegal monopoly in the smartphone market in an expansive new antitrust lawsuit that seeks to upend many of the ways Apple locks down its phone. The Department of Justice, along with 16 state and district attorneys general, accuses Apple of driving up prices for consumers and developers at the expense of making users more reliant on its phones. The parties allege that Apple selectively imposes contractual restrictions on developers and withholds critical ways of accessing the phone as a way to prevent competition from arising, according to a release. Apple exercises its monopoly power to extract more money from consumers, developers, content creators, artists, publishers, small businesses, and merchants, among others, the Department of Justice wrote. The government points to several different ways that Apple has allegedly illegally maintained its monopoly. These ways are as followed: disrupting super apps that encompass many different programs and can degrade iOS stickiness by making it easier for iPhone users to switch to competing devices. Blocking cloud streaming apps for things like video games that would lower the need for more expensive hardware. Suppressing the quality of messaging between the iPhone and competing platforms like Android, limiting the functionality of third-party smartwatches with its iPhones and making it harder for Apple Watch users to switch from the iPhone due to compatibility issues. Blocking third-party developers from creating competing digital wallets with tap-to-pay functionality for the iPhone. Apple responded to competitive threats by imposing a series of whack-a-mole contractual rules and restrictions. For years, Apple responded to competitive threats by imposing a series of whack-a-mole contractual rules and restrictions that have allowed Apple to extract higher prices from consumers, impose higher fees on developers and creators, and to throttle competitive alternatives from rival technologies, Department of Justice Antitrust Division Chief Jonathan Cantor said in a statement. The case is being filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of New Jersey. In a statement, Apple spokesperson Fred Saenz said the lawsuit threatens who we are and the principles that set Apple products apart in fiercely competitive markets. If successful, it would hinder our ability to create the kind of technology people expect from Apple, where hardware, software, and services intersect. It would also set a dangerous precedent, empowering government to take a heavy hand in designing people's technology. We believe this lawsuit is wrong on the facts and the law, and we will vigorously defend against it. Apple is the second tech giant the Department of Justice has taken on in recent years after filing two separate antitrust suits against Google over the past two administrations. It's reversed a long drought of tech monopolization cases since the landmark Microsoft lawsuit at the turn of the century. The case has been years in the making, with reports first surfacing in June 2019 that the Department of Justice would get to handle antitrust investigations into the company. App developers for Apple's iOS have complained for years of the platform's closed and often opaque marketplace. Among the most vocal have been companies like Spotify that run paid subscription services that Apple requires a 15 to 30% cut of to be offered on its platform. On top of that, Apple has its own apps that compete with those on its App Store. the only place Apple lets users download apps for what it says are security reasons, which has raised even more distrust among developers about whether they are getting a fair shot in the marketplace. The House panel found Apple had a monopoly over iOS app distribution. Some developers were able to get the ear of Congress as a House subcommittee carry out its own investigation of the tech giants a few years ago. A 2020 report by that panel found that Apple held monopoly power in the market for app distribution on iOS. Lawmakers introduced legislation like the Open App Markets Act and the American Innovation and Choice Online Act that sought to prevent large platforms like Apple from giving their own products an advantage on their marketplaces over competitors. But more than 2 years since they were introduced, neither has received a vote on the floor of either chamber. Europe has moved ahead of the US in its efforts to rein in tech. It's instituted new rules through the Digital Markets Act to place a check on the power of gatekeepers of large platforms, several of which are operated by Apple. Earlier this month, the European Commission fined Apple €1.84 billion, about $2 billion, in connection to a complaint from Spotify about its restrictive App Store practices. The EU said its investigation found that Apple bans music streaming app developers from fully informing iOS users about alternative and cheaper music subscription services available outside of the app. The Department of Justice will have its hands full with tech monopoly suits in the coming years. It wraps up closing arguments in its search distribution case against Google in May, and then is set to begin trial in a case over Google's advertising technology in the fall. Thanks for tuning in, folks. What do you think about this showdown between Apple and the Department of Justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you never miss out on the latest updates. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the ever-changing world of tech with us. Take care and see you in the next video.